They tell you space is silent, peaceful even. They're wrong. Space hums. It rattles in the bones of the station, whispers through the ventilation ducts. It's in the subtle flickers of the overhead lights and the way the metal creaks just a little too much when you're alone. I used to ignore it, chalk it up to bad wiring and old equipment. Not anymore. Not since I found the log. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Evan Holt, janitor aboard Research Station Echo Zero 08, orbiting a dead rock somewhere the government doesn't want you to know about. My job's simple. Clean up after the important people, fix the occasional mess, and pretend I don't hear things I'm not supposed to. Easy, right? That was before I found out we're not alone up here. It started 3 days ago. I was in Sector C, patching up a busted air filter when I noticed something strange. An access panel hanging open, wires spilling out like guts. Now I know this station inside and out. I can tell you which lights flicker in which corridors, where the weird rust stains never quite come off. But this was different. Someone had ripped the panel open. No tools, no precision, just torn apart, like they were in a hurry. I called it in to command. Static. Hello? I tried again, tapping my earpiece. More static. The comms were down. That's when I saw it. A helmet lying in the corner of the maintenance shaft. Standard issue. Cracked visor. Deep scratches down the sides. The thing is, we don't have anyone missing a helmet. I should know. I clean up after these guys every damn day. I bent down, heart hammering in my chest. There was something inside. A data stick jammed into the comms port. Curiosity got the better of me, and I grabbed it. That's when the lights flickered, and I swear I heard something move behind me. I bolted. Back in my quarters, I plugged the stick into my terminal. Old habits die hard. Curiosity's a bitch, and I've got it bad. A single audio file popped up, labeled LOG_019. I hit play. Static. Then a voice, raspy, trembling, male, and terrified. If you're hearing this, it's too late. We shouldn't have opened it. We shouldn't have gone inside. It's not just the station anymore. It's in us. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. If they tell you to go to level 5, don't. They'll say it's safe, that containment is holding, but they're lying. It wants us to think that. It's learning. A wet cough, a scrape, like someone shifting against metal. Then, the voice dropped to a whisper. Don't trust the AI. Don't trust yourself. The audio cut off. Just like that. I sat there, staring at the screen, bile rising in my throat. There is no level 5 on this station. At least, not officially. Someone was lying, and I was standing right in the middle of it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying the log in my head, hearing that voice over and over. I thought about reporting it, but something held me back. A feeling that if I told anyone, they'd make me disappear. The next morning, I went back to Sector C. The helmet was gone. So was the torn-out panel, like it had never been there at all. That's when I knew something's wrong with this station, and I'm going to find out what, even if it kills me. I didn't report the log. I should have, but some gut instinct told me to keep my mouth shut. And now I think I know why. Someone else already knows. The day after I found the helmet, I went back to Sector C on my usual rounds, trying to act normal. The access panel that was ripped open yesterday? Completely repaired. Pristine. I ran my hand over it, feeling for any sign of damage. Nothing. But the weirdest part? The panel wasn't just fixed, it was replaced. I checked the maintenance logs. No record of repairs, no work order. Hell, no record that the panel was ever broken in the first place, like it had never happened. I took a deep breath and kept walking, feeling the weight of the data stick in my pocket. Sector B was next, the crew quarters. Usually it's a quiet zone, but today felt off. The hallways were empty, too empty, like everyone had just vanished. Even the usual hum of the station's life support systems seemed quieter. I was halfway through sweeping when I passed by Dr. Patel's door. It was slightly ajar. Now, I don't pry into people's business, but something about the crack in the door, it felt wrong. I knocked softly. Dr. Patel, you good in there? No answer. I nudged the door open just enough to peek inside. Her quarters were a wreck. Bed overturned, paper scattered across the floor. And the smell. Stale, metallic, like something had been rotting for days. But the thing that made my skin crawl? The mirror on the wall. Someone, Patel maybe, had scrawled something into the glass. Deep gouges carved with a knife or some other sharp object. Just one word, over and over, like they were trying to make sure they wouldn't forget. Don't sleep. I backed out of the room fast, heart hammering against my ribs. Patel was one of the senior researchers. I'd seen her 2 days ago in the mess hall, eating oatmeal like nothing was wrong. Where the hell was she now? The weirdness didn't stop there. Later, while I was running a diagnostic in the observation deck, I spotted something outside the station. At first, I thought it was debris, a chunk of old satellite or some other space junk. But as it drifted closer, I realized it wasn't random. It was spinning. Slowly, deliberately, like it was keeping pace with us. I squinted through the reinforced glass. The thing, whatever it was, looked like a spacesuit. No thrusters, no tether, just floating, drifting. And then it turned. Not in a way that made sense. Not with the physics I know. 1 second it was facing away. The next, it was looking right at me. Through the cracked visor, I could see a face, or what was left of one. Blackened, twisted. A rictus grin stretched too wide across a burned skull. And then, as if that wasn't enough, its hand twitched. A small, jerking movement, like it was trying to wave. I stumbled back from the window, slamming my fist against the comms panel. Command, are you seeing this? There's something outside. Static. And when I looked back, gone. That night, I locked myself in my quarters and played the audio log again, over and over. If they tell you to go to level 5, don't. Level 5. I checked the station schematics. Nothing. We had levels 1 through 4. Crew decks, engineering, hydroponics, and labs. No level 5. But here's the thing. I did some digging through old maintenance records, and I found something. There were work orders, classified, locked down hard, but the metadata didn't lie. Repairs on power conduits that didn't officially exist. Mentions of containment reinforcements, deep in the station's structure. They didn't call it level 5. They called it sub-level E. Whatever it was sealed off 6 months ago. So why were there still maintenance requests logged last week? I was about to shut everything down and get some sleep when I heard it. A soft, wet dripping sound. I froze, my eyes darting to the ceiling vent. Something was leaking. Thick, dark fluid seeped through the grates, dripping down in slow, heavy drops onto my desk. It smelled wrong, like rust and something else, something I don't even have words for. I grabbed a rag and wiped it up, but the stain wouldn't come off. And the worst part? I swear the stain was moving. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Around 0300 hours, the station's AI came online over the intercom, whispering in that too calm voice. Unauthorized personnel detected in restricted areas. I sat up straight in bed. What? Security sweep initiated. A loud clanging sound echoed down the hallway outside my quarters. Heavy footsteps, moving slow, deliberate. I killed my lights and pressed my ear to the door. The footsteps passed, then stopped, right outside. And then, a soft knock, 3 times. I held my breath. The handle twitched, rattling like someone, or something, was testing it. Then silence. I waited. Minutes. Hours. Eventually, I drifted off into a restless half-sleep, the words from the log still echoing in my mind. Don't trust yourself. The next morning, the comms were mysteriously working again, and everything was back to normal. Except, it wasn't. I overheard Commander Reese speaking in hushed tones with one of the engineers. I only caught a snippet. We should have shut it down when we had the chance. Now it's awake. I don't think they meant the AI. I need to know what's on Sublevel E. And I think I know how to get there. I found the way down to Sublevel E. I wish I hadn't. It took me 2 days of careful searching, studying old schematics, and cross-referencing maintenance logs that shouldn't exist. Eventually, I found it. A hatch in engineering, hidden behind a stack of unused oxygen tanks. It wasn't locked, not officially at least, but the thick metal around the edges looked warped, like it had been welded shut a long time ago. But someone had been down there recently. The welds were scraped away in places, jagged edges bent outward, like something had been trying to get out. I hesitated for a long time before opening it. My gut was screaming no, but my hands moved on their own, sweating as I gripped the wheel and turned it. It opened with a heavy clunk, revealing a narrow ladder leading down into blackness. Stale air drifted up. It smelled wrong, like burnt hair and something metallic, but underneath it was something worse, something that made my skin crawl. Decay. I climbed down. Sublevel E didn't look like the rest of the station. The walls were old, older than they should have been, stained with something dark and sticky. The lighting flickered erratically, casting long, twitching shadows. And the corridors, they weren't on any blueprint I'd seen. They were too narrow, twisting in ways that made no sense. I moved slowly, careful to stay quiet, my boots sticking slightly with each step. The hum of the station was quieter here, muffled, like the whole place was holding its breath. Then I saw the first body. It was slumped against the wall in a crumpled heap. The uniform was faded, the name tag scratched out, but the body, it wasn't decomposed. It should have been, but instead the skin was dry, stretched tight over the bones, the mouth frozen in a silent scream. The eyes, God, the eyes were gone, just empty sockets staring at nothing. I checked the dog tag hanging around its neck. Lieutenant Harrison. I didn't recognize the name, but the date on it sent a chill down my spine. 2083. We launched in 2097. I pressed on, forcing myself to breathe evenly. Whatever happened here, it wasn't an accident, and someone up top knew. Eventually, I reached a massive bulkhead door at the end of the hallway. A flickering sign above it read, Experimentation Chamber 3, Biological Testing. Beneath it, someone had scrawled a message into the metal with what looked like fingernails. IT still hunts. I didn't want to go inside, but I had to. The chamber was filled with containment units, thick glass tubes lining the walls, each one big enough to hold a person. Most were empty. Most. One of them wasn't. I stepped closer, and my stomach turned. Inside the tube, something used to be human. But it wasn't anymore. The skin was stretched too thin, pulled taut over elongated limbs. The hands were wrong, too many joints, fingers tapering into sharp cracked nails. Its head was tilted forward, the mouth stretched wide, far wider than it should have been. Rows of jagged teeth filled its gaping maw, but what froze me in place were the eyes. It had no eyes, just deep, hollow sockets, and yet I could feel it watching me. Then the glass twitched. Not much, just a tiny shift, like the thing inside was breathing. I stumbled back, my pulse thundering in my ears. I needed to get out. Now. As I turned, the overhead speakers crackled to life. The AI's voice, calm and cold, filled the chamber. Unauthorized personnel detected. I bolted. I climbed the ladder 2 rungs at a time, lungs burning. As I reached the top, the hatch slammed shut behind me, locking with a mechanical hiss. I collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath, and heard something faint beneath me, like nails scraping against metal. I wasn't alone down there. I barely made it back to my quarters before the panic hit. I locked the door, slid down to the floor, and sat there shaking. The station's AI was still running system scans, repeating the same line over and over. Sub-level E is off limits. Please report to medical for evaluation. I ignored it. Instead, I pulled out the data stick again and replayed the dead astronaut's log, searching for anything I might have missed. It's learning. Containment isn't holding. If you're hearing this, it's already too late. I checked the timestamp on the log. It was recorded yesterday. I didn't sleep. Every creak, every distant groan of the station made my pulse jump. At some point, I heard it again. The knock. 3 soft knocks on my door. I stayed completely still, staring at the handle, waiting for it to move. This time, it didn't. But after a long pause, I heard something even worse. A low, whispering voice, mimicking my own. Evan, let me in. I pressed my hands over my mouth to keep from screaming. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The station isn't safe. I'm not sure it ever was. And now I know one thing for sure. Whatever they were experimenting on, it's still here. And it's hungry. I don't think anyone else is real anymore. Or maybe they never were. After what I saw in Sublevel E, I stopped following my routine. I didn't bother cleaning, didn't answer calls, didn't even eat. I just stayed in my quarters, staring at the door, waiting for another knock. Waiting for it. But the knock never came. Instead, I started noticing something worse. The crew. They weren't acting right. It started with Commander Reese. I passed him in the corridor outside the mess hall, and he looked at me like he'd never seen me before in his life. "Morning, sir," I said, trying to sound normal. My voice cracked. He just stared. Not a word, not even a nod. Just staring, his mouth slightly open, his eyes unfocused, too wide, too bright. And then he smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was too slow, too forced, like someone learning how to do it for the first time, the kind of smile you practice in a mirror. I turned and walked away as fast as I could. And that's when I realized he wasn't breathing. After that, I started watching the others more carefully. They were all wrong. Dr. Morales sat at the observation deck for hours, staring at the dead planet below without blinking once. Engineer Grayson kept repeating the same maintenance task over and over, tightening the same bolt, wiping the same spot. And Dr. Patel, the one whose quarters were trashed? She was back, sitting in the mess hall, eating oatmeal like nothing ever happened, like she hadn't carved "don't sleep" into her own damn mirror. And when she looked at me, I swear to God, it was like she was wearing a mask. I tried to check the station logs for crew records, but the files wouldn't open. Every time I tried, I'd get the same error message. Access denied. Files under restricted protocol. But there was something new today. A new alert in the system. A repeating command from the station's AI, running over and over. Containment breach detected. Proceed to level 5 for lockdown. Level 5. It does exist. And if the AI was telling the truth, containment had failed. I had to get out. I made my way toward the docking bay, trying to stay out of sight. But something was off. The corridors felt longer than before. The lights dimmer. The air tasted stale, wrong, like it had been cycled through too many lungs. I turned a corner and nearly screamed. Commander Reese was standing there, perfectly still, facing the wall. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, like a marionette whose strings had been cut. I held my breath and took a step back, and his head snapped toward me. Not turned, snapped. A sharp jerking motion that sent cold sweat dripping down my back. His eyes were too wide, and he said in a soft, broken voice, "Janitor Holt, you are not authorized in this area." His mouth didn't quite match the words. I ran. When I reached the docking bay, my heart sank. The escape pods were still there, lined up and intact, but something was inside them. I crept closer, hands trembling. The pod closest to me had its hatch slightly open, and inside, I saw myself, lying perfectly still, strapped into the seat, eyes open and glassy, pale skin, frozen breath, dead. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. That wasn't possible. I was standing right here. My reflection in the pod's glass blinked. I ran, not looking back. I don't know where to go anymore. The station is changing. I swear the corridors aren't in the same places they were yesterday. Doors lead to places they shouldn't. I tried to get to the command deck, but it led me right back to my own quarters, like the station itself was hurting me. And now, the whispers have started. At first, I thought they were coming from the vents, but they're inside my head, crawling through my thoughts like worms. They sound like me. You can't leave. It's too late. It's already inside. I sealed myself in my quarters, barricading the door with everything I could find. Then I heard the knocking. Not just from the door, from inside the walls. I'm running out of options. The AI keeps repeating the same phrase. Containment breach detected. Evacuate immediately. But there's nowhere to go. Every escape pod shows me inside it, already dead. And I think I finally understand. We were never meant to leave. This will probably be my last message. If you're reading this, if it somehow makes it to Earth, don't come looking for us. This station isn't a research facility anymore. It's a trap, and I think it's learning how to make more of us. This will be my final check-in. I can hear it outside the door now. It's not knocking anymore. It's breathing. I tried everything. The escape pods were a dead end. The comms are fried. The AI stopped responding hours ago, its last message repeating in that cold, emotionless voice. Evacuation failure. Proceed to level 5 for containment. Level 5. Sub-level E. Whatever they were hiding down there, it's free now. And I think it's in all of us. After locking myself in my quarters, I scoured every log, every hidden file I could dig up. It was all there, buried under layers of encryption. Project Echo. some genius idea cooked up by black-budget scientists to test organic adaptability in zero-gravity conditions. Except, it wasn't an experiment. It was a trap. This station, it wasn't built to study anything. It was built to contain it. The logs told me what they tried to do. They thought they could control it, study it, even weaponize it, but they didn't understand what they were dealing with. It's not a virus. It's not a life form. It's something else. Something that doesn't just want to kill us. It wants to be us. I saw them. The crew. The things wearing their faces. They aren't human anymore. Maybe they never were. They walk the halls, following the same routines, but they're empty, hollow. Sometimes I catch them watching me, their lips moving too slowly when they talk, their fingers twitching like they're still learning how to use them. But I know the truth now. They're waiting for me to slip up, waiting for me to let them in. I made one last run for it earlier, through the access tunnels, past engineering. I thought I could override the airlock, get outside, maybe even hitch a ride on one of the automated supply drones. I was wrong. The airlock was already open, and there was something standing there. I didn't see its face. I didn't have to. I just ran. Now I'm back here, in my quarters, listening to it breathing through the walls. I think it's in the vents. I don't know what's worse, that it's coming, or that part of me wants to let it in. Just to end this, I can't stop thinking about that astronaut log. The last words he left behind before he disappeared. Don't trust the AI. Don't trust yourself. I get it now. I don't think I've been alone for a while. I'm so tired. But I can't sleep. If I sleep, it'll take me. I've seen what happens when you sleep. You wake up wrong. I saw Grayson earlier, standing outside my door, whispering my name in my own voice. I don't know how long he stood there before walking away, but he left something behind. A piece of paper slipped under the door. Only 3 words. You're the last. I thought about recording a distress message, but what's the point? No one's coming. No one would risk it. And even if they did, what if it's not really me asking for help? The station lights are flickering now. It's getting closer. I think I can see something moving under the door. Just a shadow stretching, reaching. I won't last much longer. If you find this, if somehow this log makes it back to Earth, don't send anyone. Blow the station. Erase everything. If you hesitate even for a second, it will find a way in. It always does. This is Janitor Evan Holt, Research Station Echo 08. Final check-in. I can hear it crawling inside the walls now. I think it's smiling.